Hello guys, Ezra here and welcome back to another Ezra review. And on today's review, I want to talk about this movie called Stream. Now this is like the recent slasher movie that got released in August 21st, I think, this year. And it was directed by Michael Levy, and he has I think Damienleone, which is the director and writer for the Terrifier franchise, actually got involved in this movie. And so does David Howard Thornton, as one of the players or killer. So that's where I pretty much like get my attention to this movie, because it does involve Damien Leone, so I thought that, well, you know what, it could be a good and fun slasher movie, and I saw the trailer and it features Jeffrey Combs, and there is many other cameo by other, horror actors as well, like deewallace, Danielleharris, Bill Moseley, apparently he was in this movie, and Tonytodd as well. Like there is a bunch of cameo from the horror legends, you could say that, but I would say they are cameos, except for Jeffrey Combs, and yeah, for this review it's gonna be a spoiler review, because this movie is already available online on October 15th, I guess 2 days ago. So you guys can definitely watch it there, on like the streaming platform. I think you can find the information on their Instagram, so go watch it first before you guys watch this review, because I think for this movie, I think it's better for me to just like spoil the movie and talk elements about the movies, because I think there is a lot of there is some fun moment in this movie, but there is also so many terrible and disappointing stuff about this movie, so without further ado, let's just get to the spoiler review, shall we? So I think I want to first mention the positive aspect about the movie first before I went to the negative part, because there is a lot of negative in this movie, man. It's such a disappointment, to be honest. But I think for the positive aspect about the movie, the kills, I think the kills are still great. I think the practical effects are still great to watch, because again it involved Damien Leone, that he was involved with the practical effects on the killing, so I think obviously it's gonna be great, and of course I like the killers in this movie, or I guess like this in this movie they call them player, so there's player 1, player 2, player 3, and player 4, and I think there are a lot of fun, especially player 2 and player 3 are my favorite killers in this movie. Player 2 is actually played by David Howard Thornton, and then player 3 was played by Liana Piraglia. And yeah, man, like David Howard Thornton is just having a fun time, playing, player 2, because I think their kill scene are the best in this movie, and every single time player 2 and player 3 are on the screen together, they are so much more fun to watch, because it feels like they have a lot personalities, and even though I feel like David Howard Thornton are just playing, Art the Clown again from the Terrifier franchise, but at the same time I don't really mind that, because I love Art the Clown. He's a fucked up character, and I think David Howard Thornton played that character really, really well, and he does channel that element here, kinda, you could say that. And the kills itself, player 2 and player 3 has the most fun and brutal kills, because there is a scene in the hallway, where they both start dancing towards the victims, and then player 2 and player 3 also cause a victim there in the hallway. They nail the guy into like a door, and then they decide to cut their bodies, and then they play bingo literally on the guy's body, which is like super messed up, but that was like the most fun scene in the movie, even though it was cut short by the later decision that really pissed me off, but before I get to that, besides the kills, besides the killer, or I guess the players, I think the performance as well, I think are okay for the most part, I like Jeffrey Combs as Mr. Lockwood is obviously great, I think he has a fun time. Charles Edwin Powell, who plays Roy Kinnan, the father of the family, also is fine, I guess, and Tim Wright, who plays Dave Burham, which is a detective from LA, I think. That, yeah, I think everybody here are doing just a fine job, as their characters, I think the kid named Kevin, played by Wesley Holloway, also does a good job. And yeah, I think all in all, I think the performances are solid, especially by Danielleharris and Tonytodd. I think they are really talented, so I think it's just great, to see these horror legends in one movie, even though I kind of wish that there is a bit more from them. But anyway, it's nice to see Danielleharris, acting in this movie, and then he's playing Elaine Keenan, which is a loving mothers, you know. So I think it's just a really good role for her, you know. And of course, the music as well by Paul Wiley, I think is great, you know. So you got good kills, you got some fun moments with the killer, especially player 2 and player 3, you know. They're really fun. The music by Paul Wiley is good, you know. I mean, Jeffrey Combs are just having a fun time in this movie. The practical effects by Damienleone and the team are still great, you know. It's what you expected, you know, even though it's not exactly brutal like the Terrifier movies, you know, because Terrifier is just like super brutal, you know. And in this movie, it's like, yeah, it's still brutal, but not as brutal as Art the Clown, you know. So yeah. But that's pretty much the good stuff that I could say about the movie, you know, because the rest of them are shit. So let's start with the intro. Yeah, from the get-go, this movie does something wrong in the intro, you know, because in the beginning you got deewallace character that basically works as an opening kill in the movie, or so you think. Because every single slasher movie always had like an opening kill, you know. Scream, for example, you know, with Drew Barrymore's character, there was an iconic opening, you know. And I thought this Scream is gonna have at least some similar opening that deewallace character Linda Spring are just cleaning up the hotel, and then someone cut the wire, and then I thought that the killer's gonna show up, and then, you know, she's gonna get killed, and then we're gonna smash to the title card, you know, right? But that wasn't the case, you know, because there is an awkward conversation afterwards where as she's cleaning the hotel, someone cut the wire, and then she has this conversation first with this guy, and it goes on for so long, and they're talking about rats and stuff like that. It was so weird, and it kind of just like messing the pacing, you know, because after the guys leave, guess what? Linda just get attacked by the killer, and then, you know, she gets killed, you know. But that's also not the case, because as she gets attacked, it cuts to the title card, and then afterwards we spend some time with the family for at least 10 minutes before we get back to deewallace character in the basement, and she got killed using a drill. So I'm just like, it is a weird pacing from the very get-go, you know. So from the very beginning, you already have like a red flag for this movie in terms of the pacing and the dialogue and the writing, you know, because the intro itself feels very inconsistent, because like there is an unnecessary conversation that goes on for 2 minutes, you know, which is unnecessary, breaking the pacing, right? And then it should just open with deewallace character getting killed, and then get to the title card. That's it, you know. And again, I'm not gonna mention every single scene in the movie, you know, but there is a bunch of them that basically goes on for too long, you know, because it was so weird and awkward, and I'm just like, dude, please let the scene end, you know. Like, we get it, you know, we get the purpose, you know, and you don't need to continue for 10 to 20 seconds more, you know. It's just unnecessary, you know. So let me start with the characters, you know. And like I said, like the dad, the mom, and the kid character are fine, but there is the sister character named Taylor, played by Sydney Malake, I think. Taylor sucks, man, because like she's like this like spoiled teenagers, you know, that hate their parents, you know, and you were expecting her to have some development throughout the movie, but the movie pretty much forget that she is a main character, to be honest, because there is a moment in the movie where she run away with like a guy, you know, that he likes, and then they would just run away through the rooftop, you know, even though that the place was on lockdown, you know, because that's where the game starts, you know, by locking down the hotel, you know. But I guess they forgot to lock the roof, so Taylor and this other guy managed to escape through the roof, and then they just like ride their car away from the hotel, and they just disappear throughout the half of the movie, until suddenly towards like the end of the movie, they just like randomly came back. And there is also a bunch of plot holes as well in it, because like I said before, the hotel was on a lockdown, so like every single door are obviously locked, you know, except the roof, I guess, which is, again, that's another plot hole. And somehow Taylor and this other guy managed to enter the hotel, even though that the hotel was on a lockdown. Like, I don't really get it how they could get into the place, you know, because the place does have an alarm that, oh, like there is someone who enters the hotel. But I'm just like, wait, I thought you were locking down the hotel and lock every single door. So how the hell they two came in? Like, that was weird, you know. And on top of that, she was missing right throughout the half of the movie and barely had any development besides being, you know, bitchy towards her parents. And she just, I guess, almost got killed. So like, she disappeared, she came back to just like getting stabbed in the gut, and then that's it, you know. And then she just appeared in the end to do some outrageous stuff again, you know. So like, she sucks, man. The way they handle the characters are just terrible. It's just such a disappointment, you know. Because the rest of the character are fine, you know. I think they're just okay. I can definitely root for Roy and Kevin here, the father and son thing. I think they are the strongest element in the movie. I think Tim Ray's character, Dave Burnham, is also really interesting because like this whole game are basically betting on like which person who dies first, you know, and you could also bet on the player if they actually die, you know, player being the killer, you know. And I think Tim Ray's character actually entered the game purposely so he can manipulate the system, you know. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's an interesting element about the movie as well. I think the concept about the stream was actually pretty interesting, you know. I definitely want to see more of that in the sequel if we can get that. So yeah, Dev Burnham character, Tim Ray's character are okay. At least they are interesting. But yeah, besides Taylor, which really suck. I think the other character just doesn't really mean much, you know, because there's a bunch of like random characters there, and I want to move on to actually the part of the movie that I really hate, you know, because like I mentioned before, I love player 2 and player 3, the killer, right? Especially player 3 for, you know, very obvious reason. I think it's really fun to watch, you know. And when they killed the guy in the hallway, that was actually when I got super interested or super engaged from watching the movie. But then the movie does a really terrible mistake because, again, like in the whole sequence, you are following 3 random characters. These are not main characters, just like a character that was there to get killed. But when player 3 actually chasing one of the victim, you know, like into the basement, at first I was like super excited, you know, because I was like, oh, like I cannot wait to see her more, you know, like some, you know, basically her chasing in the basement, you know, before she kills this other girl, you know. I was expecting that, but this other girl actually kills player 3. And again, like I said before, she is a random character. She means nothing to the story, and yet she kills player 3, which is my favorite player in this movie. Like, why? That is such a huge mistake, man, you know, because again, player 2 and player 3, they are brothers and sisters, you know, so that's why they team up a lot, you know. They act a lot like again, like a clown, essentially, like basically miming their movement, you know. So yeah, it's really fun to watch the two of them, and then they just kill player 3, and it was killed by a random characters, not by the main characters. It's super stupid, you know. And then obviously player 2 see his sister die, and then I thought that, oh, like maybe this random character is going to become someone in the future, right? Because it seems like they are setting that David Howard Thornton character are going to be, I guess, having a revenge plot, you know, for killing this one specific girl that killed his sister, you know. But that wasn't the case, you know. This random character just like crawl out of the basement, and then Jeffrey Combs' character, Mr. Lockwood, just there to kill her, basically decapitate her with a shovel. So I'm just like, well, she is a random character, so she has nothing to the story, and yet you make her kill player 3? Like, why? That is so stupid, you know. It actually pissed me off, you know, and I feel like because I wanted player 3 and player 3 to be the final boss in this movie. That is such a fun idea, you know, but I feel like they just fumbled that because she just get killed by a random characters, you know. Like I almost think that this random character was supposed to be Taylor, you know, the sister characters, you know, because again, Taylor is just, again, disappeared throughout this entire movie, and it just came back randomly in the end, you know. So it seems like her scene just like, you know, there and there and there, and none of them are actually meaningful to the story, which is super weird, you know. And it seems that they might be mistaken Taylor to these random characters, you know, in my opinion, because it seems like she might find a way to escape, you know, and maybe try to help her family and something like that. But no, this is just a random characters that got killed. So what's the point for killing player 3 in the first place, you know? I feel like it would be much more fun if player 2 and player 3 actually stick around until the very end, you know. Also, I want to add something more positive about player 3 characters, you know. It seems like she knows martial arts, you know, because she does kick a couple of the victims, you know, in the movie, as you can see right here. I think at one point she did like a roundhouse kick in the basement, you know, which is like, yeah, it was really cool, you know, because I always dream of like about, you know, a slasher killer that actually knows martial arts and actually knows how to defend himself, you know, or herself. Because so many of the slasher killers are just like mindless killer using a mask, you know, never says anything, and then, you know, they're just using brute strength, and then that's it, you know. But I like that the player 3 actually knows somewhat knows martial arts, so she can actually defend herself, so that's a great thing. And I hope we get to see more slasher killer that actually knows martial arts, and also I want to see more female slasher killer, because they are pretty rare, they were there, but they were pretty rare, I think the recent modern example is actually Mia Goth's character from the X movie trilogy, which I think is a pretty good trilogy. So I wanted more of that, more female slasher, please, and honestly, guys, I actually wanted a standalone slasher movie with player 3, because I think she's gonna make a really fun slasher movie, Speaking of player 2, which is played by David Howard Thornton, we get to see a fight scene in the kitchen between Roy and player 2, and player 2 actually survived the movie because it was confirmed by the end there where they actually carry player 2 on a stretcher, even though he was burned up, he was totally fine. There is a medical team that's going to help him, recover, So I'm just like, well, you make David Howard Thornton's character survive, because again, it's David Howard Thornton, so obviously he's gonna survive. If there's gonna be a sequel, then he's gonna be one of the main players, so that makes sense. But I kind of wish that player 3 also survived, because he's such a fun killer, and it was such a disappointment the way they handled her. I was like, my heart literally sank when that scene happened, and it's pretty insane, because like usually when you are rooting for the main characters in the slasher movie, and rarely the killers unless the characters are bad, but in this scenario I feel like I'm rooting for the killers the most, especially player 3. And I was super excited to see her standalone basement kill or like chase sequence, I think that would be really fun, I was actually super excited to see her individual, again, her standalone kill, you could say that, and then that didn't happen. In the end, she just gets stabbed using a fork in the neck, and then that's how she dies. And I'm just like, dude, this is such a huge mistake, So hopefully, if there's gonna be a sequel, which again, the ending of the movie actually really set up a sequel, I hope we get to see player 3 again. I don't care if they just like retcon the death scenes, like maybe she survived the stabbing in the neck using a fork. Like, yeah, go ahead and do that, in order to have player 2 and player 3 again in the sequel, because player 2, David Howard Thornton, survive in the end. So like make player 3 survive as well. Why not? They were such a fun killers to have around, especially if you're going to do a big franchise with this movie, which it seems like that's the filmmakers' plan at the very least, So yeah, I'm sorry for ranting for this long for player 3 essentially, because I love her a lot, I think she's a fun killer and I want to see more of her. She's like the best part about the movie, and they just like axe her off, with a random character, and it's just I hate that a lot, with a passion. So yeah, I guess the other thing that really pissed me off, is just, again, the way they handled Taylor's character, like I said before. But what she did in the end is actually really just makes me angry, because Roy managed to defeat Mr. Lockwood, right? And then he reunited with his son, telling him that everything is going to be okay. And then Taylor decided to stab Roy in the back. And it's even stupider that Taylor never actually know that there's 4 killers inside the hotel, because he just randomly went back and then getting stabbed, and then that's it. And for some reason, she decided to take a spear and then stab her dad in the back. Sure, you could say that she doesn't know that it was her dad, but at the same time, it was still stupid because she doesn't know what's going on in this hotel. She saw one killer. She never saw the other killer, so she never know the costume of the killer, and on top of that, Roy and Kevin actually having a dialogue together, and for some reason she didn't hear that. She just decided to, let's just stab the guy, because I'm gonna save my brother, I guess. And for some reason, Kevin also did not see his sister in the background using a spear. Like, how do you not see that, kid? Like, you were actually looking. I mean, you're looking right at your dad, sure, but I'm pretty sure your eyes will notice if someone is behind your dad and is about to stab your own dad. Like, come on, man. Like, it's just a stupid plot hole, and I just really hate how they handle Roy's death. I feel like it was just unnecessary and really just unfair that they killed this character that I actually care about, and that pissed me off. Maybe this kill was supposed to be a symbolism maybe between Taylor and her dad, but I'm just like, this is just so stupid. Like, at the same time, I still think it's a stupid idea to kill the father's character, because I care for Roy and Kevin. Those are my 2 main protagonists that I could get behind with. But Taylor gets nothing. She's just being bitchy throughout the entire movie, disappear, and then like re-enters the hotel for some reason. I guess she feel bad there for abandoning her parents, you know, and she didn't even know what the hell's going on in this movie until like the last like 20 to 30 minutes, you know, and she just get back getting, and she decided to kill player one thinking that he was a killer, and then ending up killing her father. And it was just a stupid death in my opinion, you know. I feel bad for Roy because he has a daughter that's just like super just despising him a lot, you know, until the very end where she accidentally killed him, and that's where she actually crying saying sorry. But I'm just like, dude, I don't care about you, Taylor. You suck. You know, like I don't understand why she has like the final kill on Mr. Lockwood himself, you know, because I think Roy should have the final kill on Mr. Lockwood and he should escape with his son. I think that's what the movie should have ended on. And again, just erase Taylor's character. There is no purpose for that character in this movie, and it just like brought the movie down for me, you know, because I think it's just like the many amount of characters in this movie. I think it would be much better if they just cut Taylor from the movie, just remove her entirely, and then the rest of the characters could still be there because again they're just there for the kills. So I understand that. So I feel like Roy and Kevin should be the two main protagonists, and it does felt like that for the most part about the movie until the very end where the movie tried to manipulate the audience that, what do you mean? You always care about Taylor, you know, Taylor is the main characters now in the last 10 minutes. And I just call that bullshit, you know, because she has no development whatsoever, and they killed the dad, which is just like, dude, why? What are you doing? It's so dumb, you know. So yeah, this is also like the other part of the movie that I really did not like, you know. But for the ending of this movie, I think again the movie has a cool concept, you know, which I think because the ending kind of remind me of Squid Game, you know, and I feel like Stream are Squid Game but for slasher genre essentially, you know, because Squid Game is just like you playing a bunch of kids game, and if you fail then you get killed by the pink soldier, right? And in this movie you are actually playing a game, basically like a hide and seek game, you know, in a location where the players or the killers are hunting you down, and it does feels like a Squid Game universe for the slasher genre, you know. So I'm definitely interested to see the sequel, you know, more sequel into this movie, you know, and hopefully they could give the sequel like a Terrifier 2 treatment, you know, by actually writing a character that you could actually care about, you know, because I feel like this movie has 4 writers, which is insane, man. It's just so insane that he has 4 writers, and so for some reason none of his writer was able to convey a good and you know, like a good pacing for the story and make us actually care for the characters, you know, because the characters are just fine. You don't exactly root for them that much, and you ending up getting so entertained by player 2 and player 3, at least for me. And they make a huge mistake with player 3, and then they also make a huge mistake with Taylor characters, you know, that I feel like it's just unnecessary. You could just erase the characters and everything will be much better, you know, plot wise, pacing wise, you know, and yeah. And then I definitely want to see more of this the stream world, you know, because it was revealed in the end, you know, we get to see Tony Todd cameo in the end where he actually plays a future Lockwood, you know. So it was revealed that there is a bunch of Lockwood, or I guess like pit boss for each area, you know, like one of them is a hotel, one of them is a I think Tony Todd's character are locking down a hospital, and then there is a one scene in the in the mid-credit scene where they actually trap inside the movie theaters, you know. The Lockwood in the theaters are actually played by Tim Curry, which is pretty amazing, you know, because Tim Curry actually didn't do any live action role, you know, because he has a stroke way back in 2012, I think, and that's why he switched to doing voice work more often, you know. So I think this is the first time he returns to like the big screen, you know. And I think that's really cool, you know. But here's the thing: they don't show his face, which is pretty weird, you know, because I know that Tim Curry was in the movie because they announced that and in their Instagram, you know, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of looking forward to see his scene, you know, and I think the scene in the theaters was like, yeah, okay, you know, it just showed that there is more Lockwood, you know, that was responsible for locking down a location, and that's where they starts the stream, you know, and they're like the pit boss, you know, and this pit boss was played by Tim Curry, but they never reveal his face, which I don't understand why, you know, because I think that would be a nice surprise for other people who didn't know that it was actually played by Tim Curry, you know, because what's the point if you're gonna get Tim Curry and you didn't show his face, you know, in my opinion. And there is also some, you know, tongue-in-cheek line, you know, about like his character not being a clown, you know, which is an obvious nod to Tim Curry's, you know, Pennywise, you know. So like, yeah, I mean, sure, it's fun to get him back in the movie, but I kind of wish that they show his face, you know. So there's definitely several abandoned locations that they actually rig together, like setting up a bunch of cameras, you know, and people can stream and bet which one will die first, you know. And you could also bet the player or the killers to die, you know, and obviously you get some money from that, you know. And it was revealed by the end there that there is a bunch of people that knows about the stream, you know, and there is one paramedic that actually checked his phone, and it was actually part of the stream, you know, or I guess like the wasn't exactly a contestant, but it's like the viewers, you know, that actually bet, you know, for the kills, you know. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting world that I would love to be explored in the future, you know, because like I said before, this could be the Squid Game of the slasher genre if they actually manage to tighten up the script, the writing, and the characters and the pacing. Then it will be much better. And please, justice for player 3. I know she kills people, I know she's a bad character obviously, but she's such a fun killer, man. And I really hope that she could come back in the future movies, you know. Like, I don't care if they just, like, again, retcon the death, you know, where she got stabbed in the neck. Just like imagine if she actually come back and then still have like a wound in her neck and she's still alive, you know. And then she and player 2, David Howard Thornton, can team up together again, you know, because player 2 survived, so he's gonna come back in the future movie if there's gonna be a sequel at all, you know. So yeah, so let me know in the comment section below, guys, if you guys already watched stream. Then what do you guys think about the movie? You know, do you guys think this is like a dumb fun movie? Do you guys like it, or do you guys actually like me, just filled with so many disappointment, you know? And which one is your favorite player or killer? You know, mine is definitely player 3. Do you guys want player 3 to come back in the future movie? I mean, I do. So let me know your opinions in the comment section below. You know, what is your favorite kills in the movie? You know, yeah, which one is your favorite cameo in this movie? You know, because there's a bunch of cameo from other actor and actresses from previous horror movies. You know, so yeah. Let me know your opinions in the comment section below, and if you guys enjoyed this review, then make sure, guys, you know, stab that subscribe and like button, guys, you know, share the videos, usual stuff. Stay tuned for more videos in the future, and again, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one then. Bye.